ladies and gentlemen, we have the tape. Or at least one of the dozen tapes secretly taped by Michael Cohen. Now, CNN has actually obtained that tape from Cohen's legal team that recorded then candidate Trump and his former lawyer, Michael Cohen, talking about the payment to ex-Playboy model Karen McDougal. You know, that payment that he's like, oh, we never made a payment to Karen McDougal. I don't even know who that is. Why would we want to pay that off? Oh, and look, the lies, of course, have gotten debunked over and over, and then they're basically Giuliani had admitted, yeah, okay, so we actually did think about payoffs and all that stuff. But anyway, now I wanted you to hear that tape. And of course, this is, like I said, several months before the presidential election, which is really important, which is actually very relevant. Now, this first excerpt that I'm going to play for you, or this only excerpt, I should say, is going to be Cohen talking about a shell company that he wants to set up in order to facilitate said payment. Let's take a listen.
I need to open up a company for the transfer of all of that info regarding our friend David, so that I'm going to do that right away. I've actually come up and I've spoken to Alan Weisselberg about how to set the whole thing up with
so what are we going to
funding. Yes, and it's all the stuff, because you never know where that company, you never know where he's going to be. Correct. So I'm all over that. And I spoke to Alan about it when it comes time for the financing, which will be.
Listen, what financing?
We'll have to pay you. So
pay with cash.
No. I got no. Hey, no. How are you?
Okay, so that's really the relevant part. There's actually more to that tape, but it's not really relevant to the conversation about the payment. He's talking about other things. So you heard him mention David, right? Well, David who? I'm assuming David Pecker. Now, David Pecker is head of AMI, which owns the National Enquirer. The National Enquirer bought the story from Karen McDougal for about $150,000, and then they sat on that story and then killed it. Now, as I said before, they were talking about the payment, right? They said, "What?" Well, Trump was like, "What financing?" Well, we got to finance the payment. We'll have to pay. Pay with cash? No, not paying with cash. Setting up financing actually doesn't mean pay with cash. So that's kind of where there's a little bit of controversy here. Okay, so was Trump trying to say, "Oh, let's pay with cash"? Well, if so, that's an issue because cash would not be traceable, which would be him basically trying to hide this. Well, I guess you could argue all of it is an attempt to hide this before the election because it could have been possibly damaging. But nonetheless, you have Cohen saying, no, not cash. We'll actually do it in check. I'm setting up a company. We're going to do financing. And of course, they end up not doing it, right? Now, it could also be the fact that Trump might have been against paying with cash and Cohen disagreeing. I don't know. It was really difficult to hear some certain parts of that tape, so I'm being incredibly fair. Now, Cohen's lawyer, however, not being fair, that's Lanny Davis, it's a Clinton lawyer, told Chris Cuomo, quote, "What do they fear? Why am I representing him? They fear that he has the truth about Donald Trump. Well, that's for sure. He will someday speak the truth about Donald Trump. The truth is that when Donald Trump said cash, which Rudy Giuliani knows that only drug dealers and mobsters talk about cash, it was, well, you heard Michael Cohen say what? No. Okay, well, that's fascinating. Now, look, Lanny Davis, of course, is defending Michael Cohen, so you got to take what he says with a grain of salt. You actually have to also take Giuliani with a gigantic dose of salt. I would probably have like a big salt shaker or one of those big canisters of salt with Giuliani, but nonetheless, I would say Davis is a little bit more believable than Giuliani, but nonetheless, look at what they're doing. They're both basically trying to represent their comment, their clients. So, and look, I'm being incredibly fair because I want to make sure that I don't actually get this wrong. Now, Davis added later that, ladies and gentlemen, if you voted for Donald Trump, listen to the tape and ask yourself, is Donald Trump lying when he said he didn't use the word cash? And accuses Michael Cohen of using the word cash. Well, in the tape, it's a little bit difficult to find out. But Donald Trump did indeed say cash. Whether he was against it or not against it, we'll have to find out when they clear up that audio. But nonetheless, he continues. Cohen has been disparaged, true, and he was also disparaged when he was working for Donald Trump. Cohen has been insulted and called all sorts of things by people around Donald Trump. That also includes Donald Trump while Cohen was working for Donald Trump. So I guess that doesn't really mean a whole lot because he stayed around during that entire thing. But anyway, let me tell you why this won't work in the long run, why this actually won't matter in the long run. But first, let me give you Giuliani's response to this. He said, there's no indication of any crime being committed on this tape. There's no way the president is going to be setting up a corporation and then using cash, unless you're a complete idiot. Well, there's the good qualifier, right? Unless you're an idiot. What is the president? I think he's kind of an idiot. And I think it's proved that on a lot of different counts. Nonetheless, Giuliani said, this was leaked on us with a very, very scurrilous description of what was on the tape. It wasn't leaked. For one, they asked, and Giuliani said, well, we waive attorney-client privilege on this tape. So you can release it whenever you want. And so, of course, Lanny Davis and Michael Cohen said, okay, let's release the tape then. And this was one of the tapes, of course, that were basically taken by the FBI when they raided Cohen. So I don't know what kind of point Giuliani is attempting to make here, but he is not helping his case. Anyway, as far as Trump goes, yes, he's not a very smart person. He's not a very stable genius. Although, I don't know if he's dumb enough to mix that up. Maybe he got confused about how he's going to pay off this Playboy model or which one they're talking about. Because this isn't the only one. This isn't the first payout to someone alleging that they had sex with then-candidate Trump. Or even before he was the candidate. And them trying to bury the story. Now, speaking of Trump, I love his reaction. On Twitter, he goes, what kind of lawyer would tape a client? So sad. Is this a first? No. Never heard of it before. Why was the tape so abruptly terminated? Well, I was presumably saying positive things. I hear there are other clients and many reporters that are taped. Can this be so? Too bad. What? So I love this question. What kind of lawyer tapes a client? Your lawyer. Apparently the types of lawyers that you surround yourself with. That's what. That's who. Look, you're a snake. Donald Trump's a snake. So is Michael Cohen. He is also a snake. He surrounds himself with bad people. Because he is a bad person, okay? So, yes, and also let me add, what kind of person, what kind of lawyer tapes a client? Presumably one that's been employed to do shady things on behalf of said client. And likely wanted to be of use to prosecutors if it all comes falling down. Look, real estate is dirty. It's shady business. And Donald Trump has always been incredibly shady. You can't sit there and not see that. And if you don't see that, you're blinded by some cult mentality. Now, as I said before, I'm going to explain why this actually ultimately doesn't matter. See, this is fun, right? This is a fun story. This is, a little interesting. It gives you a little bit of insight into the inner workings of President Trump. But we kind of already knew this, right? Look, that's who Trump is. He's a pathological liar. And we already know him. We already know who he is. But that won't matter because look at what happened. Look at what other damaging tapes had come out. The Access Hollywood tape. It should have sunk his campaign if it were any other president or presidential candidate. it would have sunk his campaign. I remember when a scream sunk your campaign, or a sigh, or sweating too much on stage. That would kill your campaign back in the day. Now, of course, unfortunately, it's not going to have any impact. I mean, as I said, here you had a president saying he grabs women by the genitals on tape. And Trump supporters, even, obviously, women, there are women out there that support Trump. And they're like, yeah, of course. Yeah, no problem. Of course, we're admitting it. Yeah. I mean, and as far as how men talk, that's how men talk. Yeah, no, it's not. Look, the point is, all the damaging stuff about Donald Trump that's been released, while it is fascinating and very interesting, and actually incredibly entertaining, that won't mean anything at the ballot box. Why do I say that? It's because 88% of Republicans love Trump. They don't care about any of this. Now, if a Democrat did any of this, well, I mean, obviously you would have the entire Republican Party calling for impeachment, of course. And not only that, but you would also have calls for impeachment from the left as well. Unlike them, we're at least, consistent. But with Trump, they're not going to care because, look, they don't care. They're going to turn out for him. Okay? And what frustrates me about this is here you have the Democrats, right, who plan to run on getting suburban anti-Trump Republicans to turn on Trump and to vote for Democrats. That is still their plan. Oh, no, we have to run to the center. We have to run to the right so we can go and get Republicans that are anti-Trump. They're somewhere around 2%. 2%? I mean, come on. The corporate Democrats are running the same old playbook from the third way. It's not going to work because Republican voters overwhelmingly love Donald Trump. At this point, it is a cult of personality. You're not going to break through that. Okay? So as fun as this is, and believe me, it is fun. It's not policy. It's not going to turn out Republican voters for Democrats, and therefore it's not going to turn Republican politicians against him. There will be no impeachment as long as this, Republicans, voters still love Donald Trump to the extent that they still do. So remember that as we campaign for the midterms. Hey everybody, thanks for watching this video. If you want to see more like this, please hit the subscribe button below. And if you want to support truly independent progressive media, please consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/TYTNation.